This is We Are One, the latest entry in the clone-like genre where you must mess with time to work with versions of yourself while fending off hordes of robots in over 50 different stages. This releases June 1st, 2023 for the Quest 2 and PCVR headsets for $20 US, and for this review, we covered the Quest 2 version of the game. With almost every entry in this VR exclusive genre being a game I highly recommend, like Transpose, Massmaker, and The Last Clockwinder, the bar is set high, as each new clone-like title so far has delivered something unique that made it an absolute joy to play through. So on that note, let's see if this is yet another new layer to this genre, or the first misstep. What is going on, beautiful people? This is Ryan for the VR Grid, and if you can't tell, I'm a little sick, so bear with me, but if you do enjoy this vid, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment with your thoughts on this release. Now, on with the review. As I said, I love playing with myself, or rather with clones of myself, and thus the clone-like genre has become one of my favorites, as not only could it just not be done properly out of VR, but it's arguably one of the best new genres to be born out of it. In We Are One, Mother Nature's force under attack from the machine hordes, and it's up to you, as her underling, to fight against these mechanical monsters by jumping from plant to plant, and working in sync with yourself by using the weapons around you to ensure that all the enemies are destroyed before you can move on. What starts off fairly simple soon becomes quite challenging, as new abilities and obstacles are introduced, forcing you to fight against time to not only advance, but climb those online leaderboards. The first few stages act as a tutorial, explaining how you hop from seedling to seedling as you view each puzzle from the vantage point of Mother Nature's giant hand. Once you hop into a seedling, the flow of time begins, and whatever actions you make before hopping out of that seedling will be recorded, though you can only rewrite the motions of the last seedling you controlled. You'll start off learning how to arm your guns and pass weapons to yourself by tossing them in the direction of the next seedling. Hopping into that next seedling will have you watching the actions in the first one, while waiting and recording new actions typically reliant on the first's movements. The more seedlings available to you, the more complex the puzzle and the more obstacles you'll have to contend with, including block sightlines, seedlings you can't control, surfaces to ricochet your seed bullets off of, ones that mimic your actions, and many more challenges that make for yet another fantastic puzzler. This is a stationary experience, and I do recommend turning in the real world if you are looking for those top scores, though there is an option for smoother click turning should you want to use that instead, though options for blinders while using this locomotion are absent, and I think should be included to ensure that everyone can enjoy this without issue. Additionally, there is a height offset slider which works great for seated play, as well as a competitive mode which turns off narration and story to let you tackle the puzzles with less distractions. With over 50 stages to unravel, I'm guessing most will take somewhere in the 3 to 4 hour range to get through it all, with the latter half really slowing me in my tracks thanks to the complexity of each stage, and while the final solution to each puzzle may only take a few seconds, figuring out the proper combination of moves to get there will take much longer. Unsurprisingly, I pretty much fell in love with We Are One almost instantly, as pretty much everything in here is refined to near perfection, minus one thing, and that's throwing, an issue that has plagued VR games for the last 7 years. Don't get me wrong, the throwing in here isn't busted, but it's just finicky enough to cause a few failed attempts, though outside of that, my only frustrations were with the puzzles, as when the solution eluded me, it was a bit maddening. Thankfully, there is a hint system that did give me helpful advice when I did hit those walls, and never did the puzzles feel unfair, but it is just one of those games where taking a break and coming back with fresh eyes was just as helpful as trying and failing again and again. The lack of locomotion might make this feel like a lesser quality clone-like than the others I've mentioned earlier, but I can assure you that this is just as fun and rewarding as any other, sometimes even more so thanks to the complexity and cleverness of some of the situations you find yourself in. Complementing that clever game design is a wonderfully cartoonish art style that pops in the headset. I've said in more than a few reviews that opting for this sort of cel-shaded art style lends itself well to VR, and especially in less powerful standalone headsets. Everything in here looks sharp, and it's clear a lot of care has gone into the smaller game by making it look anything but. Each stage is fairly small, as most of your seedlings will be within throwing distance of each other, with the encroaching foes all appearing nearby, though the environments you play in look much larger. What initially starts off as a beautiful game full of various greenery, soon turns into something a little more troubling as you travel deeper and deeper toward the origin of the machines. This doesn't change just how good the game looks, as each stage looks different from the last, offering different settings from lush green forests to destroyed ones and stark industrial areas rife with large machines like conveyor belts, excavators, rail cars, and a host more, all painted with a drab color palette that really hammers home that destruction you're trying to fend off. Much of the game and nearby environments are rendered in 3D, though further backgrounds are still in stylized simple images, though I honestly never took offense to anything in here, and while I have criticized other games for similar visual choices, in here, everything just works and looks great. Audio-wise, it's a simple but effective package, as each plant or machine elicits its own unique sound effects, while a simple melodic tune plays over most of the game. The star of the show has to be Mother Nature herself, who does a bulk of the storytelling at the beginning and end of each stage, lamenting your shortcomings when you fail, and praising your successes, with her delivery coming off as heartfelt and authentic. Spatial audio is in play here and works well enough, though is underutilized through a bulk of the game thanks to the stage design and the fact that in most of the levels, the action is happening in front of you, but when I did notice it, it was appreciated.
This situation looks a bit trickier. There are 2 tree tappers, but only 1 shoot branch. I suggest you work together closely with your own little helpers. And don't forget, with each clone sproutling, you are reliving the same time loop. Everything happens again, and sometimes you have to be a bit patient.
If it's not clear up to this point, I have fallen in love with We Are One, and while it may be lacking in narrative, it makes up for it in cleverness and fun. While shooting guns is a key mechanic of the game, this is ultimately a puzzle game first, and I think you should know that before diving into this, as it can get very hard. It might be the smallest clone-like I have played up to this point, but in no way does it take away from the fun I had in here, as it offers up new mechanics I've never had to contend with in a VR puzzler before. If you are looking for a unique puzzler that bends your brain while manipulating time and your own actions, I highly recommend this for the asking price, as it's not quite like any VR puzzler I've played up to this point, and yet another unique take on the clone-like genre. I'm going to give We Are One an 8 out of 10. I'm really enjoying the challenge in here. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to hit that like button, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.